supposed to be celebrating after the president on the 30th of May went to Komenda and inaugurated a sugar factory. Let's hear what the president had to say on that occasion.
If we take those same attitudes that led to the collapse of the old factory, and this factory also collapses, we would lose employment, we would lose jobs, not only for the people working in the factory, but imagine the thousands of outgrowers who are going to be supplying this factory. Imagine the losses that they will make because this factory has shut down again. And I want to say that the catchment area for the outgrowers stretches as far as into the western region. Sugarcane can be produced from here to Kwesibinsem and brought here to the factory for production. And the factory is paying for the transporting. They are paying the farmers some money to bring the sugarcane. And so it is a win-win both for the factory and also for the farmer. I want to appeal to the chiefs and the landowners to release lands to the young people who want to work and earn an income from sugarcane growing. We shall continue to count on you. This factory is for you. And I want Nananum of Komenda and the people of Komenda to keep a watchful eye on this factory so that it doesn't go the way the old factory went. Workers in this factory must be disciplined. We must have a sense of integrity. We must work in this factory as if it is our own property. We must not work in this factory as if it belongs to somebody else. The collapse of the old factory led to a loss of jobs.
Right, so right after the president had inaugurated this Komenda sugar factory, new Komenda sugar factory, 2 days after the news came, rather shockingly to most Ghanaians, that this factory had to take a break. It had to shut down for some maintenance work. The minority had a verdict on what happened on the 30th, that it was mere vote-buying gimmicks by the president. Let's hear the minority.
The siting of the factory is still not too far from the sea, and this could lead to expensive maintenance costs on the iron and steel components of the plant due to the salty sea breeze. This happened to the old plant, and maintenance exacted a huge toll on the profitability of the factory. In those times, the plant had to be shut down every year to allow for the extraction of corroded matter from steel pipes. The factory ought to have been located a bit further from the coastline. Second, the diversion of farmlands from the production of multi-crop to monocrop sugarcane presents a possibility of food insecurity in the area, especially given the fact that the new factory is 25% bigger than the old. President Mahama, at the commissioning of the revamped factory, said government is in the process of developing a new national sugar policy. And that is typical of the John Mahama-led government. The case of always placing the cart before the horse. It happened in the hasty crafting of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, where, as of yet, a petroleum exploration and production law, which the Revenue Management Act ought to have mounted on, has not been put in place. So here you are, you are building the factory before you come out with a national sugar policy.
Thank you. And that was, is it Jan Bafo? Yes, Jan Bafo. And he represents the minority, and he led that onslaught. They had a number of things to say, that this was merely for vote buying, and that the president intended to do. Now, let's try to understand what exactly is going on here. Doc,
Yeah.
people want to understand what is going on. That we inaugurate a factory, and in 2 days' time, we have information that the factory has to shut down for maintenance for 6 months. How is that?
Well, if you link the run of the factory to the commissioning, then of course you find something wrong with what happened. But if you see the two as separate activities, commissioning the factory is meant to let the public know that this factory was being put in place, is now ready to run.
Okay.
And the president, who else can do it except the president, to tell the general public. Now, shutting down sugarcane factories or processing plants is not unusual. There's no sugarcane processing plant in the world that doesn't shut down occasionally to do maintenance work. In particular, that this is a new facility that was being commissioned just 2 days earlier, and therefore there was a need maybe to look at the totality of how the entire system is running after the demonstration at the commissioning. Now, the other issue is that the running of a sugar factory is entirely linked to the biology of the crop and also the seasons that produce the sugar cane. There must always be a well-defined dry period where the sugar cane plant and its performance and the concentration of sugar is best for the crop to be harvested for crushing. So even if this factory was running, I can believe that by this time it will have been shut to get the season on, so that you can get the production system to run.
Because this is a lean season for sugarcane.
Absolutely. So it's not unusual to have a factory shut down, particularly a sugarcane factory shut down. So this can happen. Indeed, many sugarcane facilities across Africa and elsewhere, there's always been a situation where the factory runs for half of the year, because that's when you can get regular supply of sugarcane, and then it shuts for the other half of the year, and the portion is taken to, if you like, prepare the mechanical parts, etc., in readiness for the next crop. Now, it does happen that you're not going to have it 6 months. Sometimes the rains are going to set in early, and therefore you have a crop coming earlier, or sometimes the dry season is going to get prolonged, and therefore you have it running between 6 to 9 months, that kind of thing. So it's not unusual to have that.
The president announced, and particularly residents of Komenda would have been very excited, elated, that this is a factory that is going to create 7,000 jobs. 7,000 jobs, practically. More than 7,000 jobs. And again, aside that, we are told that we spend $200 million to import sugar, and this was going to also help us. So everybody was excited about the news. But how did it come? How did it happen that the president had to inaugurate the factory 2 days to it being shut down?
No, but that's exactly what I'm explaining. If you are linking the two events, sure, there will be this type of confusion in the system. Okay. Because the commission of a factory is just an event to occur, and then but the factory is going to run for, I don't know how, God knows how long a time, that sort of thing. And the issue of job creation and excitement and so on, that is true. It's going to create 7,000 plus jobs.
We'll have questions to ask about 7,000 jobs.
But it's also interesting to note that a factory doesn't employ the full complement of its hands just the next day after its commissioning. It's going to take time to ramp up to your maximum operation, at which time you need all these hands. You have to have people who are going to produce the sugar cane. You have to have people who are going to transport the sugar cane. You have to have people right on the factory floor to feed the machines and deal with other value chain activities, in addition to other ancillary activities that will be happening around the production area and also the factory location area.
But recruiting people for this factory started early in the year, and there was a deadline for applicants by the 1st of February 2016 for applicants who were coming to do various things within the factory, including management and all of that. So you would expect that you will be clear about what you need, and the recruitment would have taken place before now. You are saying it has to be gradual.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not the one saying it. That's the natural way things must go. You cannot, if your factory has got to crush 1,250 tons of sugarcane per day, for a certain period of time, you are not going to have that production volume just the next day after commissioning the factory. No.
Okay.
It's going to take the mobilization of outgrowers and even the preparation of nurseries to supply seed and all those things. It's an entire chain of activities to be able to get to that maximum point where you can have the totality of the factory running and all the hands that are needed to be on deck. So if there were recruitments going on, that could be true, because there were activities going on even what they call the building of the factory. I do know that they have a sugarcane nursery that's up to about 200 acres or so, and that definitely needs hands. 200 acres of a crop is not easy to manage, and therefore you need hands to be able to do that. And of course, the next step is definitely to mobilize farmers and farms to be able to produce the sugarcane.
The minority says this was commissioned for votes. Dr. Parkwesi Ndum of the PPP also has some concerns about it, and he says, among other things, that why do you commission a factory without making sure the availability of the quantum of sugarcane that you needed, to run it efficiently was assured?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on how Dr. Ndum or Honorable Ndum sees the sugarcane crop. It is not a factory that is meant to process surplus of a certain commodity. It is meant to process a commodity that you don't really consume directly as humans, or or is relevant even in the livestock sector. And so you have to have a market ready to encourage production. Unfortunately, that's the switch. So it's not a question of putting a cart before the horse. I think it's a complete situation of putting the horse before the cart, because it is exactly the breakdown of the factory that led to the collapse of sugarcane production. So you have to have it's a closed market, and therefore you have to have the facility ready to be able to get the raw material supplied. I would have been unhappy if no arrangements at all were made to get the supplies in after the factory has been put together. But there are adequate arrangements to ensure that we have the raw material delivered. And I would like to repeat, it's not a situation of putting a starch plant to process surplus cassava, or putting a rice mill to process rice that is paddy to get milled rice, or having a station where you have some other crop that's been processed, that's been produced surplus, and therefore there's a need to process. It's simply the fact that you have to produce sugarcane.
Let's hear what Mr. Akonfra has to say about this, whether he agrees with his comrade, that's how they call themselves within the CPP, Kwesi Pratt, who says that this is a fulfillment. Mahama has fulfilled the dream of the CPP, because this is what he's been hoping, because Nkrumah set it up and was expecting that this will be done, but has not been done. But Dr. Ndum asked some questions. He says, sugar factory, where is the sugar cane? They are not growing any sugar cane in Komenda or in Elmina or in Kisi or on any of those areas. I am old enough to know that I came to meet a sugar factory in Komenda, and all over the roadside, they grew sugar cane. So if we have put a factory there, funded by the Indians, and there are some Indian people there, and they are now recruiting some Ghanaians, where is the sugarcane going to come from to be turned into sugar?
Samson, thank you. Let me say that, firstly, there's nothing that anybody in the CPP will find to boast about the revamping of the Komenda sugar factory. And this is a government that continues to put itself out as wanting to continue the work of the CPP or continue its ideas. But the hollowness of it all, at every turn, the hollowness of it all is exposed. What we need in this country, and we've always been clear as a party about it, is mass industrialization. Mass industrialization. It's not gimmicks that we need. And let's just deal with the issue of cart before the horse, for example. You've had 3 years. Had 3 years since the loan in 2013 to when the factory is finished, to have mobilized the local community in terms of even having an idea of who people are who are going to grow, who are sugarcane farmers, who are going to grow things, and even get them on a list so that you are guaranteed that at any given day, at any given month, this is the quantum of sugarcane that you're going to get from this number of growers. Instead, we have this farcical situation.
But you don't know if this has been done.
It hasn't been done. What we know is that the Ministry of Trade has advertised for all and sundry. If you're a sugarcane grower, bring sugar to the gate of the factory and we'll give you 60 cedis per ton. That means that you're running a factory on chance. If you wake up on any given day and nobody turns up at your gate, do you have sugarcane to...
I hear the 60 cedis has been increased to 70 or so. Okay.
Well, 70 or... The whole thing is that they have put a system in place where for 3 years, they have not managed the process. And you don't need, this is not a factory you put in place on chance. People should come to the gate, bring their sugarcane. You've had 3 years to have mobilized the chiefs, to have decided what arrangements you're going to have with specific farmers, so that you know that you have 50 farmers, 100 farmers. This is the quantum of sugarcane that they produce. You haven't done that. You sent out a general message. If you have sugar, you're a grower, we'll pay you $60 or 60 cedis. Bring it to the gate, we'll buy it off you. Is this the way to run a proper, integrated, that's one. In the outset, we were told that this is going to generate 400 direct jobs and 2,000 indirect jobs. Suddenly, at inauguration, this figure has jumped to 7,300. And the government still needs to tell the nation where 7,300 comes from. Because the 400 direct jobs, that's telling us now that you're going to create near 7,000 indirect jobs. How do you come to such a figure when you don't even know how many farmers, what farmers you're going to procure your sugarcane from? And this whole issue of you've set it up and in 2 days you've shut it. And the minister tells us that this is not unusual. Of course it's not unusual to shut down factories. Running factories, yes.
What he's saying is that the factory would have been operating anyway.
Yes.
So the commissioning is just an event of that day.
So let's get to the source of how long this factory has been running anyway. We know you're advertising for a managing director up to February.
Yes.
You're advertising for fitters, electricians, civil engineers, all manner of people. Up to February, the deadline. So when was this factory running? When was it running anyway? That suddenly it's been running that it needs maintenance.
No, I didn't say
up to February. Sorry, up to February. We are referring
and we
to
know
documentation.
with our little engineering.
So up to February. So we could say that by March they would have employed all the persons they advertised for.
Assuming that by March they're employed. So April, May, you've been running for 2 months, and already you need to shut down. You're running anyway, and as a matter of course, when you build a new facility, you would think that you will go through a process of commissioning, you will test it, you will produce some sugar out of it, just to test it. And then when you know that this is the facility that runs, you come and commission it so that you know that, yes, that is the normal, sensible way of doing things. It's running. We've tested it, we know that it's running, and therefore, we commission it. We let the public know. The president comes and tells the whole world, we've tested it, we've commissioned it, it's now running. We want you to know.
Yeah, so
and
since the
running,
recruitment,
so this whole issue
there would have
about
been some 3 months of
yes,
testing
so
and
this
running
whole issue
or,
about it needs to go into maintenance is bogus. Let's face facts, it's bogus. You know, no amount of justification can be put around this. You've opened a factory, even if it's been running, at least it's been running for no more than 2 months before you sought to open it. And in 2 months, where in the world does a new factory running for 2 months suddenly needs to be shut down for 6 months? You know, they haven't done their calculations correctly. They haven't put the system in place correctly. They have not put any procurement, proper procurement plan in place. They have no links with how many farmers there are in the area. They have no arrangements with them. They are relying on chance for people to come to, you know. But this, as a whole, demonstrates the way we've been running our country. We've gone around in circles and sacrificed the dreams.
You say the CPP has been advocating mass industrialization.
We've understood it.
Mass industrialization, but it begins with, you know, each step.
It begins with a proper.
We've had the jute factory back. We were having this back. We've had yes.
And in all of those cases, the model that they put in place does not fit. And this model doesn't fit. This is certainly not our model. When we talk about mass industrialization, we're seeking to marry industry with the local community. You have cattle farmers here. If you're going to put a corned beef factory there, it links to the community. And you link it, integrate it with other things. For example, when we had the hide is used to make shoes somewhere else. It feeds another community, etc. Here you have a situation where you're saying that you've set up a factory. You don't know how the community is going to grow on the back of that. You don't know. You're simply saying, if you're a sugarcane grower, bring it. What model are you putting in place to ensure that the local community, we're going to have 15,000 farmers, and this is the quantum of acres of sugarcane that is going to benefit from it, and how many people is going to employ? So even the figure that you're coming up with, we don't believe. We've gone around in circles. We have continuously shut down everything that we have put in place. We've shut down, we've grounded Ghana Airways, and we've turned the plane into a fufu chop bar. We have grounded our Black Star line, and we've gone around touting for people to come and build a dry dock for us. We've closed all our factories, our gold processing, and now we're coming back 40 years, 50 years on, and we're saying it's like somebody sucks all your blood and then gives you a syringe of blood to say, resuscitate yourself. That's what we're dealing with. This piecemeal, gimmicky way of, it's definitely putting the cart before the horse, but it's worse. It has no real thought-out integration about how mass industrialization delivers proper jobs. And if it delivers proper jobs, you need to understand exactly how that factory links to the community. And I'm afraid this government has not done that. That's the reason why they're shutting the factory.
Let me hear from
because they now realize that on day one, nobody may bring sugarcane to the gate. That's what they've now realized.
Oh, we are told that on the day of the
nobody will bring sugarcane to the gate.
The sugarcane was seen, being brought in or being put ready to be crushed. Now, Doc, Mr. Confram may be right to a certain extent about the preparation of the community and the outgrowers. And I'm saying so on the back of what the Nana Kwadwo crew had to say. He's a paramount chief of the Komenda traditional area. And he said, Komenda, which virtually died with the closure of the factory some years back, was back to life. Then he called on the government to ensure that working irrigation systems were set up to help sustain the farms, to feed the factory.
Where is that?
Then he says again that he also called for loans for outgrower farmers to ensure the constant supply of raw materials to the factory and the construction of feeder roads for easy access to the farms. question of putting the carts.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Just one quick thing. 24 million, we were told, when you got the 35 million, 24 million was sourced for doing irrigation and doing this sort of thing. Where is it? Has it happened? When we did it, the irrigation delivered water to the community, drinking water to the community. You haven't delivered even the irrigation.
Okay, now let's hear Dr.
The chief is confirming the concept of the cart before the horse. And by the way, before I go on, let me come back to the minister's claims that in Africa, sugar factories work half of the time, half of the year.
Please, I didn't say so.
Well, that's what I heard.
didn't say
Can I finish?
I said,
can I finish?
Just 1 minute. I'd actually wanted to ask him for specifics, but I decided to let it go.
Yes.
Now let's hear you.
I said in the running of the factory is related to the biology of the crop.
Yes.
And there must always be a clear, defined dry spell.
Yes, but you said elsewhere in Africa, these factories work for half the year.
Yes,
and he said exactly so. So can we move on then?
Yeah. So
okay,
the question I'm asking is, where in Africa do these factories run half of the year? It is not true. I'm used to Tetela is one of the biggest global concerns in sugar production around the world. South America, Africa, Asia, everywhere. And I'm familiar with their work. Indeed, I have their report of the construction of a sugar factory in Zambia with me, which I can lend to the Honorable Minister. The essence of the irrigation is to make sure that year-round there's supply.
Right.
So I'm very surprised that he says seasonal rainfall and this, we have to shut. And the component, the agricultural component of this project is basically to set up the Pra River to bring down water from there for the irrigation. So the factory is meant to run 12 months in a year, not 6 months, not 10 months. And I want to put this conversation in context. You know, 2008, Ghana imported 270,000 metric tons of sugar. Now it's ballooned to nearly 400,000. And in value terms, that 2008, $99 million. And as the president himself admitted this week, it's gone to 200 million. Doubled in terms of the imports. And throughout this time, the government of the NDC has presided over. And I don't understand why now that they are exiting, they decide that no, it's too much, so we have to do something about it. I don't understand the timing to start with. And this would explain why the rush to do things. If you are commissioning a plant, you have to have the product of the plant to commission it. You have to taste the sugar. Just like when we are doing these boreholes and so on. You see the chiefs with the calabash, they take some of the DC and he will drink to show that yes, now the thing is functioning. Where is the sugar for you to commission? I find the whole thing very embarrassing, to tell you the truth, that you spend the Indian government's money, which is a gift to us, 24 million of it is a grant. The Exim Bank, the total amount is 35 million Exim Bank loan from India, and we are putting in 1.5 million for the construction. And out of the 25 million, they've dashed at $24 million. And the $24 million is what we are using to do what we are doing down the drain. That's how I see it. The 24 million from the Indian government can do a lot for farmers in this country. A whole lot of things can be done. And we go and put it in a factory without any resources to back it up.
Oh, but was it not for the purposes of the factory?
Yes, it is. But what I'm saying is that...
you don't suggest that it should be used for other things?
No, what I'm saying is that going to beg the Indian government for assistance, you could tell them to give you 24 million to do other things within the agricultural sector and not put up machinery and so on, spanking new, which is redundant. And I can tell you, these machines are going to be redundant for a long time to come. Because how come that Mr. Rickett Hagan.
Are you saying the revamping of the factory is needless or is not priority?
It is not priority. That's what I'm saying. It is not priority.
How
could it be a priority if the central, the regional minister, Rickett Hagan, can confirm to us that in May, June, July, August, October, this factory will not be running? I don't understand that. And as my good friend here is saying, there's no guarantee that they are going to get the input anyway. There's absolutely no guarantee that they are, even the 6 months that the Honorable Minister is saying is going to run for, that you will get the, because you are talking about 1,200 metric tons a day. If you translate it into a year, it's nearly 440,000 metric tons of sugar cane. That's a lot of sugar cane. And who's going to produce that? I mean, as we sit here, yeah, exactly. As we sit here, we don't even know who is going to produce that.
Who's going to bring it to the gate?
And the 440,000, assuming it's available, is not going to even solve the import problem that he's trying to solve. Because 440,000 metric tons of sugar cane, translated into sugar, will be about 100,000, and we are talking about 400,000 imports. I just want your listeners to understand the context in which this whole debate is going on. So it's just trying to solve only partially to stop the imports. And even that, you cannot guarantee it because you haven't planned it well. And that's typical of a lot of such projects that we've had in the past.
But what do you know? That even if we're able to produce that much, to reduce our imports
by say 100,000 metric tons,
will there be any price competition?
That's another issue. You see, you have
will it sell cheaper than what is coming from outside?
I doubt it.
Okay.
I doubt it because you see, if you look at Pakistan and India, the material that you sent me last night, very revealing, because it tells you that the same problem China is facing. China has a local industry,
right,
and yet they are having to put tariffs on the imports in order to protect their local farmers. And this is big China. They can afford to do that. Can we, little Ghana, go against the WHO rules and so on? You know, so somebody should have sat down and thought all these things through before committing this huge amount of money to such a project, which to me is already a white elephant.
What would you have put the money into?
I would have put the money into supporting, let's say, grain. Because you see, the amount of imports of rice, people don't realize. The amount of smuggled across the border from Ivory Coast is almost about half what comes through our two ports here. And that is not even accounted for when the NDC government is making the propaganda that, oh, we've reduced by a certain percentage. This is why they talk about percentage, a reduction of imports. They never talk about absolute figures. Like I'm giving you here, that is 400,000 metric tons that we import of sugar and all that. They've never been able to come out to say that we produce so many metric tons of rice. Partly because for 30 years, we haven't even had an agricultural census. Agricultural census, which the UN says should be done every 10 years in every country. Ghana, for 30 years, we haven't done it. So most of these estimates of local production are just a shot in the dark. We don't actually know. Okay, so that's part of the reason the Ministry of Agriculture cannot come out and say we produce so many. I mean, no, they come out with these statistics, but I mean, it could be any figure.
So by the minority's estimation, this project is doomed to fail.
Oh, definitely. I mean, unless somebody is able, you see, to organize farmers into a system to be able to produce the raw material and so on, it's a lot of effort.
I've heard suggestions that why we could import. We could
import
the raw material. What's the big deal?
Then your cost is just going to skyrocket. To import sugar cane from Mauritius or from where? You need shiploads. And before it gets here, you've already lost the money.
Then what's the point of putting a factory?
Yeah, so it's essential that we have to have the agronomic aspect of it fully addressed. With the farmers trained in and with the rice varieties cultivated as to give them to the farmers with the right sugar content. I mean, it's precise science. And you haven't even begun the organization of the growers. Because as I'm saying, 440,000, almost 500,000 metric tons of sugarcane is a lot of sugarcane, I'm telling you. And to make no provision but to bring the factory to sit there, and for the whole president to go there and, blah, 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 as we heard. I find the whole thing
the regional
totally
minister explains
incomprehensible
to us that within the period of the lull, the period where there is it's been shut down for maintenance, those who are employed will still be active in the factory. They'll be doing maintenance work.
They'll be sweeping.
You said they have a job to do.
No, maintenance.
It's a new facility.
You buy a new car, you run it for a certain minimum mileage, and then they recommend that you take it for the first maintenance. But we haven't run the car. The Komenda car hasn't even run, and you are saying you should take it back. I don't understand. To be honest, I'm totally mystified by the whole idea of this Komenda.
Is it fair to go on, as the minority has done, to suggest that this is merely for vote buying?
Obviously. We are just around the corner. I mean, otherwise there's no rational reason why the president should go there and commission it at this stage. Commission what? There's nothing there. They're not producing. Where is the sugar? So that some of us could sit down and do the calculations as to the cost benefit that, okay, we are producing at this cost, we are selling at this, import price is this. We haven't even begun. So, and all this should have gone into the planning 3, 4, 5, 6 years back before you reach this stage. And you just come up with a spanking new Indians that come and put all their things together from India and
we have not empowered the
community. I mean, I find it. And it's very typical. Look, I mean, let me give you another example of what is happening in Komenda. Cocoa processing factory. They borrow $60 million to increase their capacity from 35,000 metric tons to 60,000 metric tons. And what does the major shareholder Cocoa Board do? 65,000 metric tons. They give them 16,000 every year. 16,000. How can the company make profit when it has an installed capacity of 65,000? You give them 17,000, and this is exactly what is going to happen in Komenda.
Let's hear quickly, and Doc refers to the material that we shared for purposes of having sufficient background to deal with some of these things, and particularly the material on the 5 countries that produce the most sugar. Brazil taking the lead with 25% of the world's sugar. We talk about India, China, Thailand, Pakistan. And he talks about a part where, for example, the UN seems to suggest about a certain lower demand for sugar now because of the problems with sugar and everything. Right. But it is also true that it is being said that the use of sugarcane ethanol as an alternative energy source has energized the industries. Possibilities for the clean fuel are almost endless with advances in value-added products such as bioelectricity and biohydrocarbons. So the sugar factories or plants have other alternative uses that we can look at. It's not just for sugar. So if elsewhere it is coming down for obvious reasons, it doesn't mean we shouldn't also get into it.
Yeah. Are we indeed importing sugar into the country to the tune of $200 million? Are we?
Yes, we are.
Yes. So it means that there are people in this country.
There's a demand.
Yes, there's a demand.
Yeah.
And the $200 million, does it have an adverse impact on our foreign exchange?
Certainly does.
And so we are seeking to reduce that adverse impact. And how best can you do that? You have to have local alternatives. You may not be able to deal with the entirety of the challenge in terms of the import bill. I'm not sure the factory will have the capacity to take away the entire 200 million. It's not possible.
400,000 metric tons is what we import, worth $200 million.
And what metric tons, what this capacity?
Sugar. And yes. This one here.
1,250 a day.
Yes.
Not sugar. This is sugar cane.
Yes.
So by the time you process, you are getting maybe a quarter of it as your sugar.
Yes, but all the same, I will vote for a situation where on our own, we can produce some sugar locally.
Sure.
I would vote for that.
That's right.
And to that extent, you know, I think the problem with, and I'm dealing with the first aspect, this whole thing about maintenance, period, seasonal effect, when sugarcane is available and things. You know, the government self-inflicted this problem on itself. It's unfortunate, but it's a transient challenge, take it from me. You know, I was going through, as a student of research, I was going through this our sugar industry challenges. You know, we started in '66, and production really began '67. 1981, in Parliament, July 15th in Parliament, something similar to what is happening occurred. But the difference then was that, you see, we had had about 15 years of sugar industry production in this country when that incident happened. So in that context, you can understand, and when I read the excerpts, you understand where I think today's problem was self-inflicted. The euphoria, you know, the nostalgia, a bit of propaganda. I was going to add masturbation, combined, created a certain situation. The communication that came with this whole commissioning, all the period before even the D-Day, and then suddenly the announcement of, oh, we'll be closing down at a certain time for maintenance, put together, you know, sowed the seeds for cynicism and skepticism. And that's why I say it's unfortunate, because truly this particular challenge is transient. See, in doing my little research, I realized that there was an MP, F.E. Eshan. He was the MP for KEA. He was on the ticket of the Action Congress Party.
That's right.
He raised an issue in Parliament referring to the July 6, 1981 edition of the Ghanaian Times that had reported the shutdown of Komenda and Asuchari sugar factories. So he made a statement, and many of the problems we are discussing today and over the years are captured here. The same, we have a history which I think will guide us in dealing with the present challenges this factory may face. And after he had made the points about the collapse and all these things, a member of parliament on the ticket of the PNP, that's the People's National Party, Professor E.V.T. Engman, he was incidentally, for Dangbe Shai, incidentally was chairman of the GASEL. If you know, GASEL was the Ghana Sugar Estates Limited. They were the owners, I mean, more or less the canopy for Asuchari and Komenda.
Yes.
And this argument about seasons came in here, and I would want to read what happened. You see, he says the sugar, that's the Professor Engman talking. He says the sugar industry in Ghana depends on the weather. They begin crushing around November and December during the dry season. And by the end of May, they have finished the campaign. During July, August, it is too wet for the tractors to bring sugarcane to the factory. Mr. Shan cuts in and said, Mr. Speaker, it is not correct to say that the factories have not been closed down. In fact, the two factories have been closed down and the workers have been sent home. Normally, at the end of the crushing period, only the casual workers are sent home. The permanent staff continue to work, but on this occasion, all the permanent staff have been sent home. So if the professor says that the factories have not been closed down, I think he's misleading the House.
Okay.
The professor cuts in and says this, and this is important. He says, Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful to the honorable member for his attempt at a clarification. The factory works only when there's enough sugar cane to feed the machines. The work they do during the non-crushing season is only maintenance. When there's no sugar to feed the machines, and when the wet season comes, and the tractors cannot go around to bring in the sugar cane, naturally the machines will be silent. In that case, we keep a skeleton staff to maintain the factory and do other things. Normally, we send about 75% of them on leave at this time of the year. Note, at this time, we had almost 15 years of experience and running. So maintenance in that context sounded logical and plausible.
What I said earlier.
Now, the problem with this one is that because you've just commissioned, the timing of the commissioning and the content of the communication that came, that we are shutting down at maybe in 10 or 15 days for maintenance, triggered skepticism. How long have you run the machines?
Yes.
For it to go for maintenance. You create problems for yourself in terms of integrity and credibility.
Right.
But I say this is a transient challenge. Truly speaking, setting up the factory is a good thing. I'm for it. I vote for that. I don't mean I vote for the party or the country. I vote for the factory. So I think that we ought then now to move beyond that and find out what are the challenges that will make the factory viable, sustainable. My brother, you'll be surprised if you read this Hansard, you read another Hansard of February 81, where government was proposing sugar industry bill, was dealing with it for it to become an act. No, I've heard the president talking of sugar policy.
Right.
It's all here too. And the problems that they went through, 50 years, now if you take from 66 to now, it means we've had 50 years. The factory collapsed virtually in 1998. They put it on divestiture. And if you read the divestiture records, there are interesting contradictions there. 1998, one says that it was liquidated, meaning there was no investor that bought it. But they rated the purchase price 5,100 and something cedis. That's 1998. I am told when I send my boys to check with DIC that they eventually delisted it. But there's another document that shows that they had proceeds from, and I believe the sale of equipment of the old factory running to about 51 million. So there's a certain question, an issue to deal with. But we're looking forward. We are looking at today's factory.
New factory.
The issue of the site, which I think Honorable
Yes, mentioned.
Listen to this. It came up in 1981 as well.
Okay.
It says the first problem, and this is one Mr. I.K. Boachi, PFP, Aguna Kwabri, MP. He says the first problem I see it is agriculture. The country has only 2 sugar estates, Komenda and Asucheri. Komenda has more serious plantation problems than Asucheri. The Komenda, I nearly said Commander. Komenda estate cannot be extended due to the topography of the land. It is bounded on one side by the sea, and the soil is too sandy. The salinity of the sea corrodes the machinery. Borer infestation of the sugar plant reduces the sugar content. You go to another place, they are talking of, says another area is the price paid to private sugarcane farmers. What is happening now is that there are private investors who have small crushing machines which they use to crush the sugarcane fermentation distillers. Okay. Because the farmers get better prices from these private distillers, they sell their sugarcane to them, and of course the national sugar factories suffer. You can go on and on and on. All those problems are known. Our 50-year experience
So what due diligence
has all the problems cited here. And I believe in other documentations elsewhere. So I think we have had enough experience to be able to manage this new initiative in a way that we can benefit from. Whether the cart was put before the horse or the horse was before the cart, we are challenged to correct issues that we perceive as mistakes and use our experience to help this new factory move on. I am for this new factory, and I vote for the factory.
Okay. Now, I don't think that the issue is about the goodness of the factory to the people of this country. No. It's whether there's any hope that these corrections can be done.
Yeah, but you
Given
see,
the-
I am trying
Okay,
to generally.
let me do this.
No,
Let me do this. I'll come back and
The
take
issue
your
is whether
final
this
comments.
government
Hold
is
on.
competent enough
Yes, just hold on. Just hold on.
to manage such a process.
Let's do this. Let's do this. Let me speak to.
Competent enough.
Let me speak to Imani's vice president. I'm talking about Kofi Bento. Imani has a very interesting perspective to all of this debate. Of course, very aspects of them have been raised by some of my panelists here. But its vice president, Kofi Bento, joins me on the line. Good morning, Kofi, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Samson, and thanks for having me.
Great. I read particularly the comments or the statements, the analysis done by Bright Simmons of Imani Ghana. I've read also a sort of a position paper of sort that's been issued by Franklin Kujo, the president of Imani Ghana. And it does appear to me that you believe, almost like the minority is saying, that this was started on the wrong footing and is doomed to fail.
Well, it's sad, but the truth of the matter is that regardless of how much we want something, we need to be intelligent in our approach to getting it, especially when we are spending scarce resources. When the dream to start the Komenda factory started, we took it upon ourselves to analyze the whole project. And we found a number of things which led us to put out, far ahead of time, a warning that we need to be careful in spending that money on that factory, because it seems to be an emotional thing. We want to revive what Kwame Nkrumah started, okay? But if you look at the dynamics today, and there are many aspects of it, the dynamics of sugar cultivation, the dynamics of having a whole sugar value chain, the dynamics of the world market sugar, okay? The dynamic of whether the factors that caused the original Komenda sugar factory have been abated. Then the issue of government being the one to invest in it. Hello?
Okay, if you could remain where you are, be stable, because it looks like you are moving and it's disturbing the line. You said?
I'm actually stable. I'm in one place.
Oh, I see. Then if you could reposition yourself a bit, let's see. Okay, it's not good. So what we are doing is that, yes, Kofi will call you back so that you state the case of Imani quite clearly to our viewers and listeners. They started long before the project, started, to give certain warnings and give some advice as to what they thought was needful to ensure that we had a good factory running. What I'll do right now is that I'll take a quick break. Okay, my production is giving me some signs, so I'm trying to see if I can pick that. Okay, Kofi Bento is back on the line. Okay, all right, thank you very much. Well, if you are in public service or you're a public service worker and you need a loan, I'll direct you to the Bank of Africa, because that is where you're going to get a loan within 48 hours. And you don't just get the loan within 48 hours of your application, but you have 5 whole years to make the repayment. And that's what, people find very shocking and surprising. But it is real. In fact, you have a whole 3 months to determine how you want to start the repayment. So Bank of Africa, they are strong as a group and close as a partner. Visit them and get the best that you deserve as far as your search for a loan is concerned. And when you get there, you stop. Now, if your internet could speak, what would it say? It would say that just pack, because you're wasting time. If in this time and age you are so, downloading just 1 minute of music and it's taking you 30 minutes, it's taking you even 5 minutes, it's taking even a minute then it means that you are not on the right internet product. So dump whatever you're using and hop onto MTN 4G LTE. That is where, just by a click, some material of even 30 minutes, you can download within seconds. And they mean it. Try it and you will testify. And they have a whopping 100% bonus for you when you bundle. So to get started, you simply dial *585# to check if your device is 4G compatible. Visit any MTN service center near you with a valid ID, perhaps including an NHIS card, and you'll receive the service you need. Also, Star Assurance, they have been in the business of protecting you and making sure that you enjoy the best insurance policies for 30 years now. That's what they've been doing, and making you feel as though the dangers that exist in this world are merely only in your dreams. So look for Star Assurance. You can log on to starassurance.com or call them 030-224-0632 and enjoy the best that they offer. You will smile all the time because Star Assurance, they give you the very best. Kofi Bentel is back on the line. Thank you very much, Kofi. Let's hope we have a clearer line now. Okay. Hello, Kofi.
Hello, I can hear you.
Great,
The line is still
great,
fine, but
great.
Let me be quick about it.
No, it's good. It's good now. So stay where you are and let's hear your
I'm
points.
staying
Yeah.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the point I was making was that we took time to give the warning ahead, and we outlined the issues very clearly, hoping that someone would take notes. If you want to do sugar today, you need to rebuild the whole sugar value chain in order to produce it competitively. The world market of sugar is such that the places where sugar is being produced, places like Brazil, they are shutting down mills. So you need to be careful entering that market. Now, even the climate of the place, even today, okay, needs some consideration before you go in to try and build that. We also warned that the amount of money that has been voted for this thing was not enough to build the sugar value chain or to revive the Komenda sugar factory as we knew it. We said that putting up a factory alone is not the solution. Okay, now somehow all of that has been ignored. We have gone and built a factory at heavy cost, and we have shut it down after a week or so. There is no truth in what the minister is saying that the factory needs maintenance after 1 week of production.
Ridiculous.
Factories may have to be recalibrated after a trial run. It does not take that long, and it is not maintenance. That factory cannot produce sugar because you need to import the raw material. If you import the raw material and you produce the sugar, it will cost so much more than the sugar on the market today. So it is baffling to us that we will spend scarce resources to put up a factory which almost has no chance of success. And if it has a chance of success, somebody should come and tell us intelligent people with figures and numbers how they are going to produce sugar that is more competitive than what we have on the market. And they should not come and tell us that they are going to put tariffs on the sugar we import to make it expensive so that this sugar that we are producing here will get a market. So we are worried, not because we don't want the best for Ghana. I wish Accra was like Dubai. But it is not proper for me, in pursuing my wish, to spend scarce resources to chase a pipe dream. We have put there something like $40 million, and we are not likely to get anything out of that investment. I am saying what I'm saying now because, again, it is a warning so that we don't throw more money after the bad one that we have done right now. We need to sit back and think again and ask ourselves, how are we going to make economic sense of this investment? Because already I have not seen any analysis that proves to me that this factory will be profitable. The details are in the things that we have put out, and I think that if people read them, they will understand them. I have made the point that this factory was built to produce propaganda. So check, it will produce more propaganda than sugar. And I think all of us need to get together to decide how to use our scarce resources instead of allowing it to be used.
Point well made.
Okay, I've lost Kofi there, but it's okay.
He's made his point.
Well, you wanted to make a quick point. I want you to do that, and then I'll take a break and return to continue with the discussion.
Yeah.
He's simply saying what others are saying. They say this is now commendable sugar-coated propaganda factory.
Commendable.
Well, let me make the first point. That I'm not here to lie to anybody. He told me, well, I'll say it wasn't true. I'm not here to lie to anybody. It is a fact that the factory has been shut. It is a fact that maintenance is the reason.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to people.
The official reason.
Yeah.
Can I, don't make my point for me, let me make it. It is a fact that the factory has been shut how many days after commissioning. It is also a fact that the reason given is for maintenance. I am just saying, and I like to repeat myself, that it is not unusual to close a factory for purposes of maintenance. I'm not saying that one is a fact. And now somebody has some other reason.
It is unusual to close it 2 days after it's been inaugurated.
And I've also told you that if you want
it's
to link...
It's unusual to close it after it is deemed to have
said
worked for less than 2 months or 3.
But if you want to link the commissioning to the running of the factory, you'll be in that confusion.
I'm linking it to the running of the factory rather than the commissioning. No. I've moved away from that.
And I've said, and I don't know whether you've contacted the factory to tell them definitely for how long they've test run it. You haven't done that.
We know.
You haven't done that.
You haven't said that.
No,
I'm telling you.
I'm asking. He hasn't
the
done that.
Applications for the recruitment.
Let me just continue my point.
The deadline for that was for the 1st of February.
Thank you. Let me go on my point.
I'm supposed to be able to make an intelligent deduction.
Recruitment is not running the factory, but let me just.
But you needed those people to run the factory.
Absolutely. But let me just carry on with my point. I still stand by my point that sugar facilities do shut down for reasons of the biology of the crop.
Yes.
In Zanzibar.
That's not disputed.
In Zanzibar. Yes. Well,
in 1981, it would have been valid.
He told me that it wasn't the case. Dr.
No. You said they are shut down for 6 months.
No,
6 months.
I said there are
half of the year.
I said there are in certain situations.
Oh.
If you're I don't know how else I'm going to make my point.
If you try the best that if you are linking the whole production to irrigation, then this is what it means. It means that the machine is supposed to run all year.
Absolutely. So
because if there is irrigation to produce sugar cane during the lean season,
the irrigation systems had been totally
collapsed.
Absolutely. Okay. And I'm saying that those who want to see the entire value chain running just after a day after commissioning of the factory cannot get it that way. That one, let's agree to it. I know for a fact.
So it wasn't ready for commissioning.
I know for a fact that there's funds to mobilize the
irrigation,
the infrastructure that will produce sugar cane, also to supply inputs and other materials to.
You don't agree that it's being done wrongly. When you're being asked a question, it looks like you give up, that you are being interrupted unnecessarily. But that's my job.
Your job is to interrupt me.
No,
of course.
No, your job is to.
My job is.
I think your job is also. I think your job is also to allow me to make my point.
Let me tell you, typically here in Ghana,
you are failing
in Ghana, many of you never finish a point.
No.
So you only can be interrupted.
I've never made my point to completion.
Okay, we'll take a break. We'll take a break.
We'll
take a break, and then we'll return, and I'll share some of the views that you have to share on this issue, and then we'll move on to the next issue.
I haven't made my point.
We'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back to Newsfile. And Kwekwa Nancy tweets, sometimes it's just lack of respect for people of Ghana that make leaders do these things. I mean, how does a president get to commission a factory that is to be shut down for maintenance? He doesn't understand. Then Dr. Charles Rekurobe also tweets that Newsfile, Komenda holds record for fastest occurrence of infant mortality of an engineering project in Ghana, if not the world. Then there is another one coming from Kwame.
That's a good one.
Kwame says, all sugar plantations generally have a shutdown during the rainy season. I am involved in a project on sugar in Zanzibar, and also spent time at sugar plantations in Southern Africa, where it is also normal practice. This is Kwame sending it, also sending this by text. Now, Doc was making a point about this shutdown issues, really. You conclude on that so that we can move to the next discussion.
The point I was just making was that it is not unusual to have those shutdowns. And if you have your sugarcane production under irrigation, that is meant to ensure that you have all year round, what they call it, all year round supply of raw material. But you still have to have some element of time to operate between seasons so you can do your maintenance work. And that is just the point I was trying to make, that it cannot happen all year round that a sugar factory will be running, particularly that the biology of the crop, and even if it is an irrigation, will not permit that to happen at all. So in our situation where we're even going to start with the rainfall situation, because there's some investment to be made in irrigation facilities in Komenda area to ensure that we have steady supply of raw material as we mobilize farmers to do so. And there are funds being mobilized to get that to happen. It's envisaged that up to 3,000 hectares of sugarcane and irrigation will be the final output, whilst rain-fed production supplements the supply of raw material to the factory. And I'd like to Dr. Akudo raised a couple of issues that I just want to respond to quickly. It is interesting that he gave the figures about sugar importation, and yet he's not happy that at least Komenda can respond to arresting 25% of that volume. I don't know.
No, I'm not unhappy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not unhappy. No.
Well, you said all we eventually get will be 150,000 metric tons of sugar.
I'm worried about how to get there. My worry is how to get to that.
I'll soon come to get.
Okay, so then also in a minute you round up, yes, so that we move on. Yeah.
We have had some other facilities that way. Bojuansi starch factory, for instance, it has never done more than 20% of its capacity. Okay, but we're expecting that someday it will get to its full operation, because cassava is constantly being processed, and then the value chain is constantly being organized so that the factory can come to realize its full capacity. And percentages are always worked out of absolute figures. So the impression should not be created that we just pluck percentages from the air without absolute figures, just to tell Dr. Akotura. Lastly, Cocoa Board is not a charity. It's a business entity. So if it supplies beans to processing companies, and there are, they don't give beans to processing companies, they supply them so that they pay at cost. And the Cocoa Board itself has got credited that it has to respond to in terms of, so if they don't get the full complement of the beans that they need, it's not because Cocoa Board hasn't given them, it is because they haven't purchased.
Thank you very much. In 30 seconds, tell us, what do you think, like Imani is saying, what should be done so that we don't have the situation that you predict?
I think we have to retrace our steps back to professionally what should have been done, which is, first of all, to engage, to start organizing very quickly the farmers, as the chief of the Komenda was saying. And all the infrastructure, the irrigation lines and canals and so on should very quickly be put in place. Otherwise, I can predict a white elephant sitting there on the beaches of Komenda.
Irrigation processes should take how long?
Well, he's the expert agronomist, so we'll ask him.
No, you should be asking the question as well.
Minimum, how long does it take?
I mean, it's a technical question.
It depends on the scale.
Yeah, minimum, how long does it take?
I don't see
2-3 years. I would say.
The 3,000 hectare facility.
Okay.
2-3 years.
Yes, you had some questions that you think that government should be thinking about in the processes.
Yes. I think that certainly the farmers should be organized into cooperatives so that they know that they're going to benefit. The community must benefit. Apart from the import substitution industry that we're seeking to put in place, the community must benefit. That's our perspective.
Right.
They should be grouped and organized into cooperatives. We should know quickly whether the irrigation process scheme is going to be in place, so that we can have all year round. The cooperatives know that they're going to have water to sustain their businesses. The business itself would know that it has a guaranteed source of sugarcane. You know, we were told that 1,000 acres were going to be for the factory itself, 500 for outgrowers. What has happened? Have the 500 for outgrowers been already agreed? Who is it who has been agreed with?
Okay.
So a systematic, approach which understands that this is a number of farmers who are benefiting.
And particularly that a certain amount has been set aside for the irrigation purposes.
Yes.
And you want to see
when is it going to happen?
Way.
You know, they told us they've got a secured a loan, $24 million, and it's going to happen. That with silence on it. When is it going to happen? Because it's part and parcel of sustainability of the business.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Kuku, final words in some 30 seconds.
Well. The factory has been commissioned.
Right.
There are challenges. Government should just be honest enough to concede that there are challenges. And together with all those who have expert view on the matter. Now, humanity was quite a powerful intervention. But if I get a drift, then they might be suggesting that we should even abandon the project. If I get their drift.
Well, Kofi seems to say that we need to retrace our steps.
Yes, so it means that this is that an option that we should have a sugar factory or not. If I get their drift, they appear to have done some serious work. Okay, let's be honest. I haven't done that much work. So, and I know they have superior knowledge when it comes to some of these things. But the thing has been commissioned. It has challenges. I think we are capable of surmounting the challenges in order to make this factory viable, better than it ever was in our history. The challenges are clear. If you go into history, the same old things, some of the things we've said here were part of the problems of the past, which led to the eventual collapse.
Quite interesting that things keep repeating.
Yeah.
Keep repeated in the manner.
The agricultural sector performance.
There has to be.
I thought you were going to do the agricultural sector performance.
Yes, I'm coming because we have very limited time. So we'll restrict it to the comments that Nanado had to make when he was out there. When he was out there. Okay, Imani's publication. You can go online and read some of it. They have some 5 clear points that they think we need to pay attention to. It's quite a bit. So just go read Imani's 5 risk factors of Komenda Sugar Factory, as published by Imani. There's a comment here from Larry Dogbe, who insists I must read that. And he says that he's very surprised at the cynicism of some Ghanaians, including the NP, that a sugar factory has been built and we are doubtful about the source of the sugar cane to feed the factory, despite the vast arable land before us wasting away with green grass. Well, that's the question he asked. You ought to do the things first. And he says sugarcane, maize, bamboo, rice, and grass plants are grass plants ready to grow with the least attention, good weather, and a little amount of water. And then he says, please drive to Sogakope and Ada and watch the amount of water from the Volta River gushing into the sea. Appreciate also the varieties of green grass, grass growing around the banks of the river. Can we have the naysayers and doomsayers giving hope to Ghanaians rather than what they are doing presently? And then he has another question about, he says, Dr. Osaya Kuto doesn't believe in everything Ghanaian, including the Ghana Cocoa Board and the Ghanaian cocoa farmers. Please ask him what has happened to the state coffee farms sold under Kofo's regime. No. Okay. Sorry, I don't need your answer because I have moved beyond the point of political, what do they call it? Is it equalization? We don't need that. We need to move forward. Now,